Hey everyone, my name is Jason Baker. I teach percussion at Mississippi State University, and today I'm going to be giving a brief tutorial on the 2015 Lions Band audition music. I'm going to be performing and talking about a snare drum solo entitled Then Again by Brian Bloom. Before we get started, if you could, go to misslionsband.org and download this music for free so that way you can follow along as I play and talk about this piece. As I play, you'll notice I'm playing this matched grip. I know a lot of you snare drum guys are going to be playing this traditional grip. However, all the concepts I'm going to be talking about apply regardless of whatever grip you choose to play. I'll begin by giving a performance of this piece at a slower tempo, talking about a few sections, and then giving a full performance again, this time at the marked tempo. You'll also notice that I'm playing this on a practice pad, so I'll be omitting the rim shots in the piece, only playing those as accents. I hope you enjoy it. First thing I want to talk about is dynamic control. And in this piece, it's extremely important because if you look at it, the whole first page stays at a relatively soft dynamic. In fact, the first forte dynamic does not appear until the beginning of page 2. So don't be fooled into playing some of the mezzo fortes in the first page at a little too aggressive of a dynamic. In particular, if you look at the first couple of lines, it begins at piano, and then in the third line crescendos, but only to mezzo piano. I find that a lot of students, when playing softer dynamics, get in trouble with their accent height. We tend to have an all-purpose loud accent that applies regardless of the written dynamic. I'd encourage you to have a dynamic level that is appropriate to the dynamics in which you're playing. For example, if you take the very first line and play it without any flams, without any accents, just play the rhythm and the sticking at the written piano dynamic. Then, after getting comfortable with just that control, bring the accent height up just a little bit, but keeping in mind that the accent should be within the realm of the written dynamic. After you're comfortable with that, add the flams. You'll notice that you have a long crescendo on that second line. However, you're only moving up to mezzo piano. One way of working through this would be to consider how to use the zones on your drum. You're going from the edge to halfway. One way of approaching this might be is if you have a really well-tuned drum, keeping your stick heights exactly the same. However, letting the drum do the work for you as you move into halfway. You'll get that slight change in dynamic since you're playing a little further in on the drum. However, you're not having to worry about overshooting your stick heights and playing too loud. The next concept I want to talk about is accent control. This is particularly useful in the middle section in the 6/8, where we have a lot of paradiddle, double paradiddle, and paradiddle-diddle type rudiments. For example, if we look at measure 31 and we slow it down, we have a double paradiddle followed by a single paradiddle. A lot of students might tend, especially at a faster tempo, to let the accents pop up. And it really destroys the accent structure and also really gets in the way of executing this in a smooth fashion. I encourage you to think about two types of strokes here with this paradiddle combination as well as in any other accent combination you might play. Try to isolate where your downstrokes are and where your upstrokes are. For example, beginning of that double paradiddle rudiment and also the following paradiddle are downstrokes in that the hand that plays the accent is not followed by an accented note on that same hand. Down, 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 down. The other side of this, which a lot of people forget, is that there's also an upstroke. And paradiddle rudiments, all types of them, are great because they have a double at the end of them. And that double allows the hand that's going to be accented to come back up with plenty of time, as long as you move it in a smooth fashion. So for example, down, up, down, up. That double is time for the opposite hand to move into place, so that way we can get a well-timed and balanced accent. Putting this into context at a slower tempo, so I'm thinking down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Work through these passages, both with paradiddles and any passages that have accents. Identify if a stick has to stay down, and also when the opposite hand has time to come back up. Do this slowly at first, and you'll find that it really adds a level of efficiency to your playing. Next, I'm going to talk about interpretation of grace notes. If we look at the very last page, at measure 54, we have Rademachew rudiments. And one thing I really like about this solo is that it includes a lot of these patterns, especially these rudiments that a lot of younger players aren't necessarily exposed to. These Rademachews, which sound great, they feel great in your hands, and it gives you a variety of ways to think about interpretation. If you look at this pattern in measure 54, and just played the check pattern, which means taking out the doubles and just playing the underlying 16th notes and the triplets, it would sound something like this. By doing that, the underlying rhythm becomes very square and, for me, kind of sterile. A way to approach this in a fashion that has more character and has a little bit more personality, has a little bit more swing, would be to think about the check pattern as actually being a little more triplet based, where you're putting the left hand where the double would be in the first beat actually on the third beat of a triplet. So to demonstrate, it becomes this. When I put the double in, it sounds like this. Hopefully you can hear the difference between those two. One's not necessarily right or wrong, but this rudiment gives you a chance to play with a little bit more personality and perhaps make some decisions based upon your interpretation and where you are with the tempo. To finish up, I'm going to give a performance of the solo at the full printed tempo. I'd like to thank you for checking out this video. I encourage you to email me if you have any questions. Also, check us out on Facebook and also our webpage for all the percussion stuff we have going on at Mississippi State University. Again, thanks for watching and best of luck.